Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. It's time for our community news desk. And this time around, we'll be heading over to Simonstown out in the Western Cape. Our community news desk is a part of a show where if there's a story in your community that you think deserves attention, that you think deserves to be on the media, and people are not talking about it, but it's a concern for you guys, you can get in touch with Salam Media and we'll get you on the show and you can give us insight on what's happening. People to know about it, expose whatever's happening to a large, big audience, and hopefully assist you in getting help. And this time around, we'll be heading over to Simonstown out in the Western Cape, where residents and worshippers at the historic Noorul Islam Mosque and nearby community members are raising serious concerns over a proposed boutique development by Dintswalo. They say the planned project could restrict the only practical access route to the mosque and making it harder for especially elderly worshippers to attend prayers and community events. The mosque currently relies on the Bicom Lane, a narrow accessway, which locals fear could be compromised by the development, adding to existing parking space and constraints at the site and at the vicinity of the mosque. And we'll be speaking to the custodian of the mosque and resident, Brother Abdussalaam Cader, who argues that the alternative routes have not been properly considered by the developer or by the city, and the urgent engagement is needed to protect community access and heritage. I think we all know that the Noorul Islam Mosque is a very, very historic mosque. It's been there for ages, and it's a heritage site at this point. So Mr. Cader is joining us via a virtual platform. Mr. Cader, thank you so much for giving us your time. Welcome to News and Views, and appreciate you joining us this morning.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you and Salam Media for the opportunity.
No, the pleasure's all ours. I think we can start the conversation here. If you can kindly just give us a brief explanation on what exactly is proposed with this boutique development. What is it? What is it going to look like? And how the community was informed about it, and why you guys are so opposed to it.
I think you did an excellent job, excellent summary in the beginning in introducing the topic. You summed up exactly what the problems are. The masjid is in what was the Malay quarter of long ago. Simonstown's a very old, it's actually the third oldest European settlement in South Africa. And so since 1750, you could say, the first building started going up, and of course the slaves, the Muslim slaves, were used. They were skilled craftsmen, and they were used to build the buildings. And so they have lived. We have lived in this area since 1715 or that time, and then of course the Group Areas Act came along, and people were forcibly removed in the 1960s. And the mosque has remained. The mosque is the current building is 100 years old. There were other buildings before that are made up of two houses, and as the community they had the skills but not the materials, as they collected from their meager earnings, they built this masjid. The masjid also is, if you know Cape Town and the deep south of Simonstown, there are no masjids from Muizenberg all the way to Cape Point. There are only 3 masjids, one in Simonstown, a small one in Cork Bay, and our sister masjid, which is Ocean View. Now, the people of Ocean View formerly resided here in Simonstown around the masjid and were forcibly removed to Ocean View. So these 2 masjids are sister masjids. We have one imam and one committee. And what is at threat now is that there is only one road, Wickboom Lane, one road, cul-de-sac. It's a narrow road. It used to be a pedestrian road, pedestrian access to the area, and now it's become a road. It has a limit of 5 tons. It has collapsed many times. The pipes in the area are very old, and they were, as of last year, replaced eventually after much outcry from the residents and the masjid, and so it was replaced. And now we find that the development, which is 100 meters from the mosque, basically, there are 13 units that the developer wants to build. We've had meetings with him, and he outlined that they will be using Wickboom Lane for the construction, which means heavy trucks. And we are afraid that that road is going to collapse and trap the residents. There are 35 residents that live around the masjid, and so they won't be able to have access to get in and out, emergency vehicles, all that kind of difficulty. In addition to that, the parking area that exists there is limited, and the developer wants to use the parking area as a staging point for his building materials, so that will reduce the amount of parking. It will in fact, all the parking will be gone, basically. The masjid is very, very busy. On Jummah, we are full. We overflow. We struggle to accommodate everybody because Islam is growing. There are only 3 masjids in the Deep South. We also have lots of visitors that come to the masjid. Tourists come to Simonstown to see the penguins and go to Cape Point. And when they put in the GPS nearest masjid, it leads them to the Noorul Islam Masjid in Simonstown and turns them up Wickboom Lane. And so access to the mosque will be denied to them. It's a very narrow lane, lots of difficulty. The residents and the business people in the town are concerned about the impact that this will have. All we are asking, there are other access points that the developer can explore and the city can explore, but they have failed to do so up till now. So we are hoping through exposure to persuade them to perhaps look at the alternatives first.
And I think there's another aspect of this that you've mentioned in your other previous interviews, the fact that Wickboom Lane is essentially the only practical access to the masjid, and you've mentioned that especially for elderly worshippers who visit the mosque on Jummah, it is the only one that they can use because of its accessibility. Can you explain a bit on that?
Exactly. The elderly worshippers, if you know Simonstown, it's very steep access, and it's impossible for the elderly to walk up. So they rely on access via Wickboom Lane to get access to the masjid, and this will be denied to them. Buddha Siddiq, our elder in our community, is in his 90s. He used to walk up when he was a lot younger, 10, 15 years ago. He's unable to do that, but he still comes. Him and Buddha Cader Haji Cader Rafi, they come every Friday at 12 o'clock, religiously. And so this will be denied to them, that they won't be able to come to the masjid, even for Jummah.
That's very, very concerning. Let's talk about the engagements that you've had with the city, or maybe with Dinzwalo, the developers of this new proposed boutique. How have that gone? Have they been fruitful? Are you actively engaging to see if you can find a meeting ground of some sort?
We have met with the developer. He has come to the mosque. In fact, we had meetings with the residents. We have the residents committee is driving this. So there are 5 or 6 of us, including myself from the masjid, and we met with the developer in the masjid and at other venues. And he has been fairly forthcoming initially, saying he will not proceed with the development if it impacts on the residents and the mosque in any way. And so we were very happy to hear that, and we have a civil engineer in amongst the residents who builds mining roads up in Joburg. So he's retired here, and he had a look at the alternative accesses and pointed out the alternative accesses and shared the information with the developer. And the developer initially was it's going to cost him more. Difficulty in time, the regulatory access has got to do with the city as well. So I think the developer has been hesitant, and he promised us a management plan, a staging plan, which would take into account all of our concerns. And we waited quite a while. Excuse me. We waited quite a while for this plan to come, and what he gave us was a 2-page generic document, which didn't even have the names of Wickham Lane and the area on it. And so we were very, very disappointed by this approach. We felt he was leading us on, and the time for starting the development was getting closer. And in desperation, we reached out to the city, the mosque, the masjid, wrote a letter to the mayor, Gordon Lewis, and also to the premier, expressing our concerns. The mayor then referred us to the councillor, Simon Lau-Kok. We have engaged with him as well. He believes that it's fait accompli. He also believes that that the development will not affect the masjid in any way. And so we've kind of hit a wall there. And to progress our story, we know we approached them, the media got hold of it. The Daily Maverick came and did an in-depth analysis and spoke to all the parties, including the mayor's office, the councillor, the developer as well. And that was in the Daily Maverick. Since that has been published in the beginning of January, the radio stations have picked the story up, and it's getting traction on Facebook as well.
One thing that's I think maybe once or twice a year always comes up, especially in historic towns like yours, is how often there's a debate between economic opportunity and community preservation. How do you think the balancing act should be between the potential economic benefits of a business or a tourism project being built in such a close vicinity to a historic mosque or a historic kind of community center, but still keeping up with the local needs and preserving the heritage of the place?
It's a balancing act. We certainly are very well aware of the opportunities that this represents in terms of employment in the area. Our country is struggling with unemployment, so we are conscious of that and sensitive to that. But we are asking that you can't that a balance be struck, that it doesn't impact on residents and heritages, especially. This area is full of history, and is part of the charm of the area and part of the attraction that people come to see. And if we just wash that aside in favor of few jobs and opportunities, economic opportunities, then we're selling our soul. And our soul, our forefathers worked very hard, struggled, and to just brush aside in favor of economy is, I think, foolhardy and short-sighted.
No, most definitely, and I think you put it well there. Just lastly, before I let you go, Brother Abdussalaam, what are your next steps as custodians and community members and leaders? Will there be any further meetings, petitions, or legal challenges? Where are we now, and where are we headed?
So the legal challenges, of course, are very expensive, and it will be very much a last resort that we would have to take if needed. We don't want to go down that road. We believe that there are opportunities, that there are win-win opportunities for the developer, the town, the residents as well. And we need to explore those. Yesterday, we met with the chairperson of the Simonstown Civic Association, who has also sent a letter in support of the masjid to the mayor in the past. And we've asked him to mediate for us, to approach the developer first, and speak to him. The chair of the Samsung Civic Association has the ability to network between the Navy, which owns properties abutting on the site where this Marisol development by Swallow is taking place, the city as well, and the community, you know. So we are hoping that that the chair of David Atwell will be able to bring the developer and these other parties to the table, and we can progress this with a win for all.
I think we're going to leave it there for now, but this is a story that will continue to follow quite closely. Jazakallah so much for joining us and for giving us your time. Really appreciate it.
Jazakallah khair. Please spread this if you have social media. Put it out there on your social media that we can share as well to give the story some life and to progress it. Jazakallah khairan.
Ameen. Walaikum salam. That is Abdussalaam, Cader, custodian of the Noorul Islam Mosque out in Simonstown, and they're raising very, very serious concerns over a proposed boutique development that could impact the only practical route to the mosque for worshippers, particularly for the elders. Locals are calling for meaningful consultation, careful planning. They've suggested alternatives for the developer, but it's simply saying that's going to be too expensive for me. This is the route I want to use. And yeah, it's concerning. And this is a story that will continue to follow quite closely because it's a very, very important one. As you heard there, Noorul Islam, very, very historic mosque out in Simonstown, one of the only few mosques that are in that part of the Western Cape. And it does need to be protected. And yeah, we'll follow the story quite closely. This has been our community news desk. And if you want to be part of the community news desk, there's a story in your community that you think deserves a bit of light, a bit of attention, you can give us a call. Our studio line is 011-680-0355, or you can get in touch with us on WhatsApp on 061-766-0355. That's 061-766-0355. And this is your part of the show, essentially. It's the community news desk. We want to hear from you and amplify whatever story that is of significance in your community that you feel deserves a bit of attention, and the whole country and the whole world needs to know about, and try and get whatever assistance that you can get. But this one will definitely be keeping a close and very keen eye on, because yeah, needs to be preserved. Noorul Islam, very, very historic mosque, a big, big part of the historic fabric of Simonstown and Islam in the region. And they're really, really assisting Islam grow in that part of the world. And it's one of the only few mosques. There isn't a lot if you can go to Simonstown. So yeah, we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on the story and making sure that we give you all the latest updates regarding it. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. News and views continues after this.